So I just got out of seeing the movie Undertone, and I'm not gonna lie, this movie made me feel extremely uncomfortable leaving the theater. Not because of jump scares, but because of the atmosphere. And this might end up being the scariest movie you'll ever hear. Undertone is about a woman named Evie who hosts a podcast with her best friend Justin. The dynamic between them is very interesting because Evie is skeptical while Justin is a believer. After Evie moves back home to take care of her dying mother, she starts getting random emails of auto recordings from a couple claiming that they're hearing paranormal noises in their home. As Evie and Justin starts analyzing the recordings sent to them for their podcast, the situation slowly starts pulling her into paranoia and fear as the recordings start getting louder and louder. And that's where this movie leans into its premise, because this movie isn't about jump scares or picture horror, it's about horror and audio. The things that I liked about this movie is that this movie is honestly very well made. The sound design and mixing are honestly impeccable. The way the film used sounds to build up scares is honestly effective, and there are honestly moments where some noises had me on the edge of my seat. And if I'm being real, I don't think I'll ever listen to a lot of children's songs the way that I heard them ever again, due to how this movie depicts sounds and music, period. The lead actress, she's okay. She doesn't really have that much to work with because she's the only character you actually do see in this movie, and I have to emphasize on see because there's other characters you hear through audio. Throughout the whole movie, she's going through her podcast, and once she puts the headphones on, you actually do hear it from the perspective of having your headphones on. But where this movie really shines is its final act. The last 25 minutes of this movie is utterly intense. After such a beginning with the slow burn, this pulls up to 1,000, and the last 30 minutes feels like Hereditary on crack. And for a moment there, the movie becomes completely terrifying. Another thing that stood out to me is how this movie does have a lot of parallels with Paranormal Activity, which is funny because this director, having Undertone as his first debut film, is resurrecting Paranormal Activities, and they signed him on to be the director. And honestly, after seeing Undertone, I do really like that choice because the budget alone for Undertone was only $500,000, which honestly, due to inflation, that sounds extremely excessive, but Paranormal Activity was half of that, and that came out in 2007. But yes, I hate how much inflation has affected a lot of things, especially the movie industry. But even with a small budget, this movie does actually bring the scares, and it makes you terrified, and it shows that no matter what your budget is, as long as you write a good story, you can make something terrifying with little money. And after seeing what this director can do with sound, audio, visuals, and a limited location, because this movie fully takes place in this girl's house, mainly downstairs and upstairs in her mom's room, but it still manages to bring the fear out. And with something like that, being able to create such suspense with such a small location, it does make me excited to see where they're going to go with the Paranormal Activity franchise. This is the kind of movie that I'd really want to watch again, but I'd really want to actually watch the movie in IMAX or just something with better speakers, or better yet, watch this movie with headphones on. But where there's good, there's bad, and we'll talk about that. The pacing for this movie sucked. This film is extremely slow. Even with the first 15 minutes of this film, it could have been cut down to less than that. This movie could have actually survived as a short film, if I'm being honest with you. There was a lot of things that could have been kept out, but at the same time, there could have been a lot of things that they could have added in if they wanted to make this a full-length movie. Because for a movie that's 94 minutes, the beginning is extremely slow. And with that being established, there's a lot in this story that's not utilized much. The dynamic between Evie and her podcast co-host Justin is very underutilized. We don't know much about them. The only thing we know is that they don't live in the same area. And their dynamic had a lot of potential because you have the non-believer working with the believer, and seeing their dynamic together is always interesting. It would have been more interesting to flesh that out a bit more. And a lot of the concept in this movie, it seems like it's built up, but we don't really get much out of it. When this movie does end, there's a lot of questions that you do have. And this movie, with the short runtime, as I've said prior, it doesn't give you enough time to really flesh out the characters, so there's not really any development with them. You don't get attached to them. So when anything does happen to people, you're not really sad about it. You're more so just shocked because you don't understand them enough to care. And at the same time, this film does a lot of awkward zoom-ins into certain corners that is gonna make me want to watch this movie again, because I'm focusing on these corners trying to debate if I'm missing something, because is there someone back there or is there not someone back there? What am I supposed to be seeing? So a rewatch, I feel like you'd catch a lot in it. But then we got the ending where the movie completely falls apart. But I did say that the movie is very exciting for the last 30-35 minutes, but then you have the last 5 minutes that completely destroys that. It wraps everything up in this very uncomfortably weird way that some people in my theater was kind of laughing at it. And after such a long build up to a poor conclusion, it does make you leave the movie feeling pretty empty. This movie definitely won't be for everyone, I can tell you that now. The pacing might honestly take some people out of it, and when you realize that this movie doesn't really depend on jump scares, but more so sounds that you hear that are disturbing and distorted, that's where the fear really comes out. And even though I had a lot of questions when the movie ended, the movie was still very unsettling for me. I honestly had trouble sleeping that same night, because this is the kind of movie that sticks with you. It does have the same type of traits that the movie Sinister has. And I see that there's a lot of people talking about how this is the scariest movie of the year when we're only in March. So far, this is the scariest movie of the year that's out. I'm curious to see what other movies are coming out that's going to be as scary or maybe scarier than this to take the throne. And another thing that I learned over the years is that when I see A24 attached to a film, I know that it's going to be interesting in some form of way. And even when they don't fully work for me, they are doing something different and interesting that does make these films pretty unique. Even though Undertone has incredibly good sound design and a very beautiful atmosphere that's felt with such creepy, suspenseful tension, and a genuinely intense final act, the extremely slow pacing and the terrible ending does really not work for me. So because of that, my rating for Undertone is going to be an entertainment. But have you guys seen Undertone? If you guys have, do you guys think that this is the scariest movie out so far? Let me know in the comments. And if you like my vibe, comment below, like and subscribe. I'm James Hancock, signing off.
It's what she wants.